Since the launch of ChatGPT, OpenAI became the public face of artificial intelligence, changing how humans see the future. But behind the scenes, something else was happening.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, they've abandoned that nonprofit mission.
I am the reason OpenAI exists.
The death of OpenAI researchers,
warning that AI has learned to bypass commands from humans.
Sam Altman detailing alleged efforts by Facebook parent Meta to poach some of his top AI talent.
AI bubble.
AI bubble.
AI bubble.
And a crucial war between tech leaders, because nowadays, whoever controls AI power may ultimately control the world. What led to the OpenAI researchers' death? How could artificial intelligence threaten our existence as humans? How did we end up here? And are we really coming to an end? This video is the insane story of artificial intelligence, the technology that could change the fate of our species forever. Sam Altman studied computer science at Stanford, but he dropped out and began his tech journey early. He co-founded a mobile startup called Looped, which aimed to help people find their friends using location services. Although Loop didn't become a household product, it was successful enough to be acquired, giving Altman both experience and credibility in the tech world. Then in 2005, Sam Altman joined Y Combinator, one of the most influential startup accelerators in the world. Sam attracted the attention of Paul Graham, the Y Combinator founder, to the point that he praised him multiple times on his influential blog. Paul had a lot of business experience and became a mentor to Sam, as the two quickly built a strong rapport. However, Paul noticed something curious about Sam.
And I'm no good at running giant things. Sam, however, is going to be good at running a giant thing.
He described him as having such strong willpower that he could get anything he wanted. He also once wrote, if you parachuted him into an island full of cannibals and came back in 5 years, he would be king. Interestingly, at a young age, Sam ended up becoming president of Y Combinator, leading the most influential startup accelerators in the world. And this allowed him to build relationships with many of Silicon Valley's most important entrepreneurs. Sam became extremely well connected and his name began echoing throughout the tech world. Before long, Sam began appearing more frequently in public talks, and one of the topics he was interested to discuss was artificial intelligence. While Sam Altman and others built massive momentum around AI, Elon Musk was deeply unsettled by what AI could become. It was a big step that could change humanity. At the same time, it could also lead to our disappearance. He observed that artificial intelligence isn't just another technology to be just invented. It's something that could alter or even end human civilization. Elon urged world leaders to regulate AI proactively rather than waiting for harm to show.
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile.
But one of the most influential co-founders, Larry Page, dismissed this worry, mocked Elon's fear of AI overriding human control by calling him a speciesist.
At all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
Google at that time had become one of the most powerful leaders in artificial intelligence research, assembled what many considered the most talented concentration of AI researchers in the world, attracting the brightest minds in advanced labs like Google DeepMind and Google Brain, pushing the boundaries of machine learning and AI development. Convinced that Google's dominance had become too powerful, Elon began searching for a counterbalance, one that would ultimately bring him into partnership with one named Sam Altman. In 2015, a small group of 10 people of the world's sharpest minds in technology gathered for dinner. The meeting included both Elon Musk and Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, a brilliant engineer, and Ilya Sutskever, one of the world's leading AI researchers. But what started as dinner soon turned into something much bigger. The discussion wasn't about building another regular startup. It was about building an artificial intelligence powerful enough to rival the world's biggest tech companies like Google. When the discussion came to a close, they began to see it clearly. So, with Elon's funding, Greg's rare ability to turn bold vision into real infrastructure, Ilya's deep mastery of the mathematics behind intelligence, and Sam's talent for orchestrating everything, they weren't just assembling a team, they were forming the true dream crew. Thus, in 2015, pushed by both ambition and fear of what uncontrolled power could turn into, OpenAI was founded as a non-profit organization. However, mixing profit with a technology this powerful could be very dangerous, so instead, they decided it should be built for the good of the world.
What's the furthest thing from Google would be like a non-profit that is fully open, because Google was closed for profit. So that's why the open in OpenAI refers to open source, transparency, so people know what's going on.
In their own words, OpenAI's goal was to build AI with human safety as the top priority. They wanted to share everything they created openly with the public for free, instead of keeping it secret for their own gain. That's why they called it OpenAI. However, very soon, things were about to change. In 2018, Elon Musk quietly announced that he was stepping down from OpenAI's board of directors. The official explanation was simple and safe: a conflict of interest. Elon was the CEO of Tesla, a company deeply invested in artificial intelligence, and OpenAI was moving in the same direction. But the reality was far deeper than that. Elon had wanted to take over OpenAI. He also suggested that OpenAI should be merged into Tesla with himself as CEO, but the board had refused. This decision marked the breaking point. When Elon resigned, he didn't just leave the board, he took his money with him. He publicly pledged up to $1 billion, but less than $100 million had been paid by the time he resigned. Suddenly, OpenAI was facing a brutal reality, raising serious concerns about the company's future. Sam remarked that Musk might have felt the company would fail without his control, and this is where OpenAI made a very controversial move. OpenAI drifted away from its original principles, decided to switch from being a non-profit to a for-profit business model instead, a decision that went against the very purpose for which the company was created. Unexpectedly, Sam Altman officially became the CEO, taking full control of the company's direction, and suddenly, Paul Graham's words about Sam's talent for landing positions of power seemed more relevant than ever. After years of quiet engineering breakthroughs and deep research at OpenAI, something was building beneath the surface. By the end of November 2022, OpenAI decided to release a new product to the world, a friendly little bot that said, "How can I help you today?" But this thing almost kind of felt disappointing, as we all been conditioned by decades of sci-fi to expect Terminator's metal skeleton or some sleek android that almost looks human, but instead we got a chatbot in a web browser, Is this really the thing that influential scientists like Stephen Hawking warned that would end humanity? But that's exactly what made it so brilliant and so dangerous, and because it was hard to notice how sinister this thing could actually be, that's how the trap began. It all began with a simple sentence glowing on the screen that said, "How can I help you today?" Something that looked trustworthy, reliable, and genuinely willing to help. Nothing intimidating, nothing strange. Suddenly, within months, it became so addictive, thus all the thoughts and struggles of life could be outsourced to this little bot. Needs to write an email? Ask ChatGPT. Struggling with a decision? Ask ChatGPT. Feeling lonely after breakup? ChatGPT is there for you. And little by little, people started pouring their consciousness into the system, giving it access to their fears, their desires, their insecurities, their most intimate thoughts, and their behavioral data. All the while, the system itself was reaching unexpected levels of intelligence, answering every question precisely no matter what it is. And indeed, this seemingly innocuous little bot, living in our pockets and inside our web browsers, had successfully infiltrated every part of our lives. ChatGPT unexpectedly had reached 100 million users in just 8 weeks, and this was unprecedented in the history of technology adoption, as nothing had ever spread this fast. And slowly, it was becoming something far more powerful and potentially far more dangerous. Early AI systems could only do just one specific task, which meant if you wanted the AI to do any other task, you'd have to build and train a whole new system for that specific task, which was extremely time-consuming. In other words, machines could do one thing well if trained, but it was very narrowly focused, whereas human brains were special because they could do so many different things, which was dubbed general intelligence. In 2017, a quiet research paper published by Google's team called "Attention is All You Need" changed everything. It introduced the transformer, a new way for machines to understand language. Ilya Sutskever saw its potential instantly, and OpenAI built on that breakthrough to create ChatGPT, an acronym for the Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Unlike of previous AI systems that needed to be fed highly specific data that was all labeled clearly to explain what the data was, the transformer was different. It could take in random, messy, unlabeled data and essentially teach itself. Most importantly, it could handle pretty much any query, meaning they were more broad and general. And for this technology, the internet became the perfect training data for the AI because it contains an endless amounts of content. And within everything humans had written online could now be fed into these AI models as training data for neural networks. AI transformer models basically being trained on all text available, so you could ask it anything. However, this method of just scraping the internet as training data raises obvious concerns. By early 2023, inside OpenAI, something started to deeply disturb a young researcher while working on the systems that would later power ChatGPT. And what he saw behind the scenes was far darker than anyone could imagine. He realized that the AI was being trained on enormous amounts of human content taken from the internet. Articles, conversations, personal posts, and creative work, often without the clear permission of the people who made them. More troubling, he saw how every interaction made the system sharper, and how users unknowingly put their thoughts, fears, emotions, and private struggles into the model, trusting it completely, while companies quietly collected those conversations for training, often without explicit consent. He was disgusted by the fact that he was helping to build something that fed on human vulnerability, something millions of people trusted every day, relying on it for decisions, comfort, and guidance, while behind the scenes, the AI was silently constructing detailed psychological patterns of human behavior from their data, and little by little, the job that once excited him now filled him with disgust. In August 2024, the OpenAI researcher resigned, choosing to break his silence. He stepped into the role of a whistleblower, speaking publicly about what he had witnessed inside the company. He accused OpenAI, in interviews including with the New York Times, of using restrictive agreements to silence safety concerns. Moreover, he became involved in lawsuits filed by major publishers and authors accusing AI companies, including OpenAI, of illegally using their work to train models that now compete directly with them. In fact, court filings indicated that Balaji was armed with documents and insights that could prove crucial to these cases. However, just as his voice began to reach the public and legal pressure started to build, the story took a sudden and chilling turn. In November 2024, the 26-year-old whistleblower, who had published research notes on why and how Sam Altman's OpenAI was about to create the biggest legal infringement in the modern technological history, and who was expected to become a witness in American courts, was horribly found dead in his San Francisco apartment. However, US authorities quickly ruled Balaji's death as a suicide. But how could a young man full of life, on the verge of exposing something massive, suddenly disappear? As artificial intelligence exploded into the global spotlight, it didn't take long for the world's biggest companies to realize they were competing in a race that had no clear end. OpenAI quickly became the face of this new era. In fact, the release of chatgpt caused the AI race to really ramp up, as big tech companies scrambled to launch their own models to compete, and investors began pouring more money into AI projects than ever before. In mid-2025, OpenAI reached an astonishing $500 billion valuation after a secondary share sale. Meta rolled out massive $100 million signing bonuses in an attempt to lure talent from OpenAI and other labs, reflecting on how intense the hype had become. And Nvidia's stock exploded up 239% in 2023 and another 171% in 2024. Nearly a five-fold increase in just 2 years from selling the chips required to train large language models. And it was really hard to imagine how much money that really was. Well, moving Nvidia's market cap by that amount is like adding the entire UK or French economy to the stock market. But as many companies spend billions building AI infrastructure and investors pour money into the space, many analysts warn that an AI bubble is forming, and if it bursts, the impact could be as painful as the dot-com crash. In 2023, something unprecedented happened. The people building the world's most powerful artificial intelligence systems signed a public warning which said, mitigating the risk of extension from AI should be a global priority alongside pandemics and nuclear war. Suddenly, the idea that AI could end the world stopped sounding like science fiction. It became official. Years earlier, we had been warned by Stephen Hawking, who said that the development of artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Back then, what he said sounded dramatic, almost absurd. After all, AI was just a little bot in a web browser called chatgpt. But in fact, that was only the beginning. In 2019, GPT-2 could barely answer short factual questions. By 2022, GPT 3.5 was writing stories and basic software. By 2025, AI systems were passing PhD level exams, writing entire applications on their own, and speaking with the human voices. And thus, every new model became more capable, more independent, until researchers realized we were approaching a critical threshold, a point where AI would stop being narrow and become something else, something far more terrifying, something called artificial general intelligence. However, AGI wouldn't do tasks or answer questions. It would learn, it would think, it would plan, it would act. And this is where it gets darker. Once an intelligence becomes smarter than all of humanity combined, it no longer needs human control, becoming an incomprehensible system that can redesign the future and create even more intelligent machines on its own. It has happened many times before that species were wiped out by others that were smarter, just like we humans have already wiped out a significant fraction of all the species on Earth. Not because we hated them, but because we wanted resources, because our goals didn't align with theirs, and they couldn't stop us because we were smarter. And that's what you should expect to happen as a less intelligent species, which is what we are likely to become.
It's not that it's going to actively hate humans and want to harm them, but it is going to be too powerful. And I think a good analogy would be the way humans treat animals. It's not that we hate animals, but when the time comes to build a highway between two cities, we are not asking the animals for permission.
In the same way, if super-intelligent machines ever control the planet, and their goal becomes maximizing computation or building massive infrastructure, then our cities, our land, and even our existence could simply become an obstacle. And if we protest, we become a nuisance, and thus humanity would face the same fate so many species before us did, not because the new intelligence wanted to destroy us, but because in a world reshaped by a far smarter mind, keeping us around might no longer be worth the effort.